Hey, boys and girls, Doug Giles here. It's Warriors Rich
and Wildmen. What's happening, Doug?
Let's go, Brandon. That's what's happening.
That's what's happening.
I feel, Rich, that a change is coming. Yes, I believe an awakening is happening in the United States. All the Christians chewing their fingernails down to the nub, wondering, oh my God, when's the rapture going to happen? This is the end of the world. It could be the end of progressivism, could be the end of the Democratic Party, because Joe Biden is driving this thing and whatever morons he's listening to right into the wall. And man, I'm telling you, people are getting woke in a righteous sense to what it means to be under the jackboot of Marxist, maybe with a little m, Marxist leadership. And you look at the stuff that's going on in Canada with the truckers. Have you been following that?
Yep.
Dude, that's beautiful. Can you imagine the whole revolt back to sanity, freedom, liberty, Constitution, Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence could be led by a bunch of mother truckers in Canada? Would that be great or what?
It would be
man?
awesome.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I have a little bit of a different perspective on those things than you do. I agree with what you're saying, but my thing is that people need to start standing up for their own personal freedoms, and they won't. They're like kind of just waiting to see what happens. But I think every person needs to start standing up for their personal freedoms. And if they do that, and if everybody does that, then now we're united and it's happening. But too many people are just watching, and they're watching while they're conforming. And I think there's a personal responsibility. That's always my answer all in the church. You know, people are like, well, if the church would do this and the church would do that, it's like, hey, you do it. You know,
exactly.
Famous revivalist said, if you want to start a revival, draw a circle around yourself and start a revival in the circle. You know, and you probably know who that is. I couldn't think of their name right now, but I just am, everybody's waiting for somebody else to do something. And it's like, well, when they lead, I'll follow. It's like, well, just lead with yourself, lead with your family. Just stop participating.
I tell you what, man, the price that those truckers are paying up in Canada is humongous. And it's also like negative 40 degrees. And those guys are perfecting the middle finger to Justin Trudeau. And I think it's going to be a year where people really come online to liberty and freedom and this grand experiment in self-governance. And they begin to honor it, appreciate it like never before. Because when you lose those kind of rights, man, the government's real slow, Rich, and you know this, to ever dole them back out to us poor dupes in the flyover states. And I think also, man, and I know this is not the topic because we want to dive into the family issues because that's muy importante, folks.
Yep.
If that family is a mess, then who cares about the nation? I care more about my family than the nation, but they're real close to each other, you know, because I believe
they matter. They matter.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, I think Fauci's going to go to jail in 2023, man. I really do.
I wish you would.
You've got those
on the Canadian truckers. On the Canadian truckers, we can have a couple guys on if you want, because I'm really, really good personal friends with the guy who owns the second largest trucking company in Canada. We can have him on here. But people might not like the way he talks and what he has to say about it. But
who cares?
He's rowdy.
Yeah, people,
like he is rowdy.
Course. Yeah. Well, he's a trucker. He's a friend of yours, so I wouldn't expect anything less.
Yeah, he stayed at my house. We ride motorcycles together. He's an awesome, awesome guy.
So Awakening's going down. 2022 is going to be this thing called the year of pushback. And I think, you know, the following year, we'll probably see Fauci in County Orange, Rich.
I think
got his emails. We got his emails where he's completely lying with another scientist. They know that this was, they know that the Wuhan Weezer was cooked up in a lab. It didn't come from some freaking wet market, and some moron Chinese guy ate a bat and coughed in somebody else's face. And then all of a sudden the whole world is under a scandemic. It didn't happen. Fauci knew it. We've got the emails right now. And I'm telling you what, I hope that little 5'5" Italian megalomaniacal narcissist, I hope he's sweating in his little small size underwear because people are on him like stink on a monkey, brother.
Well, but that's forgive me, brother, if I don't share in your optimism about that, because we've had emails, laptops, videos, pictures, phone calls, and anybody on the Democratic side never gets prosecuted for one freaking thing. And then,
But God,
you
Rich,
get
but
the
God.
human trafficking. You're guilty of human trafficking. Who are you doing it for? Oh, the dead guy. And then I don't know. Nobody knows. So I don't have faith in that. Now, they're going to answer to the Lord on that day. But when you're a Democrat, there's a whole different set of laws. And so I'll believe it when I see someone in prison doing time.
Yeah, well, Jim Jordan's gunning hard for Lord Fauci. And, man, if we win the midterms, well, first of all, they got to get in power for him to really go after him. So
but Republicans have been in power, and all they do is talk.
He's such a negative
Nobody
Nancy,
goes to
man.
jail. I know, but nobody goes to jail.
You know what?
Here's Hillary's
Rich,
emails.
If a year ago, well, Hillary's, she's a different layer of evil. She will be sorted out. I think in time, she's already looking kind of long in the tooth and worse for wear. And nobody likes her. Nobody believes in her. When people were saying that she's going to queue up for 2024, people on the left are like going, bleh,
yeah, nobody wants her for sure.
Yeah, so, and if not on this side of the Bema seat, Rich, as you well know, the judge of all the earth will do right by her.
I believe
But here's the thing. If somebody had told me, freaking year ago, that Chris Cuomo wouldn't have the primetime gig on CNN, I wouldn't have believed it.
No, I wouldn't.
I thought he was ensconced forever, Same thing with old Andy, his brother. Who would have thunk that this guy
Never
that they
would
were
believe that.
Posting up to run against Donald Trump, who saved New York, all of a sudden, boom, he's gone. He's kicked out. I think God's cleaning house, man.
Removed from office, nobody goes to jail on that side. If you're a Republican, good chance of seeing jail.
Yeah. Oh, tremendous chance.
And that makes me angry.
Because if the left didn't have quadruple standards, Rich, they'd have no standards at all.
That's right.
All right, man. Let's do it. 12 thoughts on restoring family relationships.
All right, let's go.
Previous podcasts, we talked about family members. Especially if you're Christian, they should attempt reconciliation. Right? People, you want to be right, or do you want to be reconciled? And the only thing that aside from incest, child rape, verbal, horrible, physical type abuse and stuff, to me, I would say, hey, love you, but you're dead to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's Christian, Rich, but I don't know. Anyway, it's probably not. We also talked about setting biblical boundaries and not cutting off toxic people just because you think their toxicity lies in them disagreeing with you.
Right.
So
interesting
brings us
thing
to
on
number.
that. If you go to a counselor, this is one of the things that amazes me about going to a psychologist or a counselor, and I'm not against that. We send people for marriage counseling, personal counseling in our church. We send them, it helps. But think about this. Let's say that you and I have a disagreement, right? And you decide that you're going to go talk to a counselor about it. I mean, it's obviously hypothetical because me and you would get on the phone and go, yeah, okay, cool. And then it would be over. But that's because we know this list. But let's say you and I were in a disagreement. You went to a counselor and you explained what's going on. Well, the problem is it's not that you're lying or trying to mislead them, but you only have your perspective of whatever you went through, right? And the counselor is not trying to be dishonest. They're trying to help you. And so if they're listening to the data that you're giving them, they're interpreting the data, they can come back and say, well, that person is controlling, they're manipulative, they're toxic, you need to close them off. My thing is, if you care about counseling, I'm serious about this. Let's say you have a problem and you're going to go to counseling because your relationship with someone, right? I believe that you should ask the person that you're in a problem with to write an email and tell the story. And you should present that to the counselor so that they have a different perspective, right? Not getting that person to be mad, but even if they are mad, so what? Ask them to write it. I'm trying to work this out. Could you imagine how far ahead the counselor would be if they had the other side of the story to it's like when you go to marriage counseling, if you go by yourself, it's not going to do much. You go sit there together, they can help you, right? And I think that people are trying to get help, but they're only giving their perspective. The other perspective isn't there. The counselor's trying, but they don't have the information. So that's my thought on that. So, because they're only going to tell you what you're saying. They can only respond to what you're giving them, right?
Yeah, and that's why Paul said it's better to remain single.
I heard a comedian the other day, Doug, and he said, yep. And then the devil attacked Job, killed his family, took away all of his money, his livestock, and everything. And one of the demons said, hey, his wife's over there. And the devil said, oh, I know. And he said, well, go get her. And the devil goes, oh, no, trust me. I know what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
Anyway.
Hey, in regards to, if somebody doesn't like you, the story that they're going to put forth is not going to be flattering to you whatsoever. But, Solomon said this, the most wise dude to ever schlep this third rock from the sun, aside from Jesus, of course. And this is what he said before he went off and screwed, 2,000 or 3,000 women.
Yeah, and then he said, guys, don't do that.
And started worshiping demons. Crazy glide path for Solomon. Anyway, he said, a person, the first to plead his case seems right, and everybody believes him until somebody else comes and examines what they say.
Yeah, the cross-examination.
All right, man. So number 4, what do we do?
Do not restore the relationship to obtain a false peace. I'm going to give an example. Yeah, it's a cultural thing too. It's a family thing, but it also could be a cultural thing. I'm going to talk about the Philippines a little bit, and some people can say you're a racist, and I'll say, okay, well, you're stupid and don't have a dictionary. But the problem that I found dealing with the culture of the Philippines is that they always want to appear outwardly nice and peaceful. Right. But I found out that they have something that's called the meeting after the meeting. And so you have a meeting, and then you leave, and then they all go back in the room, and they have the real meeting. And so that way they can appear to be, and that's a cultural thing, right? That's how they were raised. That's how their culture. And a lot of nations that were dominated or conquered by Spain have this passive aggressive type, like in Colombia. They're very passive and kind and nice, but behind the scenes they want to kill you, and sometimes they do. So there's whole articles and books written on the rage that's behind the front, and it's similar to that. It's just not as extreme. But they will make peace for the sake of it looking like peace, but behind that is this anger, and that anger never can be resolved if you're walking behind this like pseudo peace that makes everybody happy. Case in point, go to a Thanksgiving dinner, somebody has a real issue with somebody else, and they just act like everything's fine. Well, in one sense, that's called manners and letting everybody enjoy Thanksgiving. That's not the place to bring it up. But It shouldn't be the next Thanksgiving that I get together with that person and everybody thinks everything's cool, but secretly, deep inside, I hate them, or I'm mad at them because people say, well, I don't hate anybody. And your terminology will trip you up because the way you speak represents the way you think and what's in your heart, and you got to start thinking about that. And so if we all come together for Thanksgiving, you have a problem with somebody, you could even walk up to them and say, hey, I know we have some unresolved stuff. Let's get together and work that out sometime. Let's have a great dinner with the family. See, that's just being honest, right? So there's a difference between having manners and just faking peace the whole time, but you still have this issue inside of you. Don't ever do that, because you'll never restore a real relationship holding that stuff in. What do you think about that?
Man, as I mature, Rich, like a fine wine, if somebody doesn't want to have a relationship with me, dude, I don't even pursue it.
Yeah, but if it was one of your daughters,
I don't.
If it, you know what
I mean? Well, of course.
Well, that's what we're talking about. But you got to think about that. There's a lot of people. You have a great relationship with your daughters. That's awesome. But there's a lot of people, Doug, that when their kids are adults, they don't have great relationships with them. And they have to figure out how to fix it. And you can't fix it just by, here's a hug when we see each other. They got to get down to it.
Yeah, I think, yeah. And, as you know, as a pastor and a dad, some of these are complicated balls of yarn. I think young parents with young kids, be loving, be the authority figure in the house. Don't be a jackass. Mm-hmm. And if you're like that throughout all of your, parenting and through all the years and phases and all the drama that comes with raising kids and stuff, I think, you're probably going to have a pretty solid relationship with your girls or your boys or both. I've I run hot. I I'm not a perfect man, and but I know I understand clearly who I was in the family unit. I am Neanderthal. I am running this house, and here are the rules until you can fly out of your nest on your own. And but when I blew it, I told him I blew it. I was quick to apologize. It wasn't, I wasn't estranged from them at any time. I didn't take off and vanish for months on end. I know some people's jobs require them to do that, but I think my best advice so that you never have to restore a relationship to obtain false peace is, man, work that thing every day, all day, 24/7, 365, and you won't be in this kind of conundrum.
Well, that's the best advice. That's the
hellish,
best
man.
path. That's God's way, right? But here's the problem. 50% of the marriages in the world end up in divorce. 50% of the marriages in the church end up in divorce. Sometimes it's not one person's fault. Sometimes, almost always, it's both people's fault. But I can't even tell you how many people in my church are married, remarried, kids, mixed families, and it just throws this massive curve. And then you have the problem that's so common with divorced parents is that one of the parents just completely brutalizes the other parent in the eyes of the kids, like tells them, how terrible they are and things like that. So that's not God's plan. But the problem is this, it's not, well, you shouldn't be there. The problem is, okay, but we are. So where do we go from here? That's the thing. It's like, so that's the great thing even about the podcast, because you have your perspective. You've been married once, stayed married to your wife. You have kids. You have a great relationship with them. I'm on my third marriage. One, I was 20, married at 20, divorced at 20. And when I got out of jail, they let me know I was being divorced. But so that happened. But then I was married 22 years, divorced, and then now married for almost 5 years. And so I have kids who were separated from me. Some were adults, some were older teens, and I watched that process. And so I had to experience. So I had a life of a family together raising my kids, and then I had to experience that. And so when I experienced that, all these other things come in, because the Bible says a city or a house divided can't stand. It'll come to nothing, or destruction, one version says. That's my favorite. What nothing actually means in Greek, it means not, like zero. And that's probably worse than destruction, because zero means everything that was good is now gone. Like it comes back to nothing, right? And so that's a big deal. But I deal with so many people that are divorced and remarried and trying to raise kids and trying to figure out how to do it right. And if you bring up marriage and stuff, they feel guilty still. They'll feel guilty. And so in that, I think we're trying to offer hope. And how do I go from here? And then, like my kids are grown, I'm working with them. Right now, I'm 75%. I'm 3 out of 4 are in great relationships with me. I got one that's still sideways. But so these things are just things that we have to deal with. And even in a family that's still maintain the family unit, when they get older, sometimes, it's kids trying to figure out how to raise kids. When your kids are young, right? And then there's problems when they become adults, and then what do they do? And I don't think a lot of people are talking about that stuff. I don't think a guy told me one time, he said, you preach up here and the people are down here. And when they see what you're preaching, they look at it and they say, that's right, and they nod, and then they go back to living, because they recognize that that's the best, but they're not there. And he said, my pastor, if the people are here, he preaches a little level above them, and then the people rise up about halfway. And then he preaches a little level above them. The people rise up halfway. And he says, and after a year, you can see the growth of the people from here to here. And he says, whereas your people, the way you preached, and he was an older pastor straightening me out. He said, at the end of the year, they'll all know what these incredible standards are, that they don't even know how to go to the next step. And so I started adjusting my preaching to help people move closer to what God has for their plan, right? That's always the goal, is to try to get back to God's plan, to God's path,
Yeah, I'm the exact opposite, man. I use words people don't know, make them run to their dictionary and thesaurus. I talk about the harmatiological mess that the American milieu's in. And everybody's like, what did you just say? It's like, I don't know. Felt good, though. I tell you what, if people want to restore relationships, and they've got a blended family and everything's all jacked up. Here's one piece of advice: watch the Brady Bunch reruns. Pure gold, man.
Yeah, and those they're learning to say sorry. They're learning to work. That's what the whole show's
freaking
about,
great,
right?
man.
Yeah.
Kids aren't. I mean, if they rebel a little bit, Greg goes out with Marsha, and it gets a little weird because they're stepbrothers.
Now, when they get married and have kids, nobody's going to know what to call them.
Right.
Bobby, and that's what I started calling. I started calling my stepsons, Annie's boys. I started calling them my bonus kids. Like, you're my bonus kids, and so now they call me their bonus dad. It's pretty funny because I would always say, "Well, these are Annie's sons," and I told them, I said, "It's not that I wouldn't be proud to be your father. It's that you have a father. I'm not trying to disrespect him and his place in your life. I'm your mom's husband, but I'm going to...
I tell you what, man.
And so we came up with that term. We'd heard it somewhere else, but I'm their bonus dad. They're my bonus kids, and it's cool. We like it.
Beautiful. I tell you what, if I got remarried, God forbid,
don't do it.
And my new wife started talking mad smack to one of my daughters, I think I'd divorce her. I've watched.
Yeah, you'd probably be married to the wrong person for sure.
Yeah, and that's I've watched stepmoms tell their stepson, "You're stupid." He makes a C on a report card. Dude, I graduated with a 2.1 GPA from undergrad school. Now my graduate was a little bit better than 2.1. But, my parents never said, "Hey, you're a dumbass. You're an idiot." And I've watched stepmoms call their kid right in front of everybody at dinner, "Oh, you're so fat. You want another plate of food?" Listen, man, I'm telling you, if my new wife said that, I would, let's see, how can I put that? I would, I don't think I would do anything physical. I would say, "You know what, so-and-so, I made a big old mistake.
Yeah.
And I'm going to send you this thing called divorce papers, and we're done. You're not going to do that to my son. You're not going to do that to my daughter. I married a jackass. And Lord forgive me, but I'm going to guard my kid from this vomit."
And I agree with that 100%. And then you take the situation where I have with Annie, she has 2 teenage boys, and they need me to be hard on them. And I am. But I talk to them and I love them. But I'm rough, bro. Like we have a rule.
Yeah, but it's not, "Hey, you're fat and you're stupid."
No, they're not fat. They're in great shape. Right. But I wouldn't say that anyway. But a funny thing about that is that we had a thing in our family, and Gavin's going to love this because he'll have made the podcast. I'll send him this clip.
Hey, you ought to have them come on the podcast and talk about how I spanked them playing ping pong.
That's what we'll do. That would be awesome. So we have a rule at our house is that you cannot answer a question with this answer. "I guess." I said, unless it's a multiple choice question and you're going to guess, other than that, because this is what "I guess" means. I guess means I'm not going to argue because I don't want to get in trouble, but F you. That's what "I guess" means. It's rebellion, straight out. So we made a rule. Do it again and see what happens. So I was walking in the room right as Gavin was looking at his mom, and he goes, "I guess." I said, "What'd you just say?" He's sitting on the couch looking at me. He's like, "What?" I said, "Did you say 'I guess'?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Get down on the floor and do 100 push-ups right now. Exercise, son." And he was like getting down there, and he does like 20, and he stops, and he gets on the couch and picks up his phone. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, I got tired." I said, I'm old and fat, and I can do more push-ups than you. You're a football player. Get down there and exercise. If you're tired, lay on the floor until you can do them all." And he starts doing it. And then I stand over him and start doing kind of the drill instructor thing. And I said this: "If you're going to be dumb, you're going to need to be strong."
Well, that's positive.
Very positive. And so,
yeah, you don't.
But the interesting thing is, and then Annie's also, she's tough. You know that. She's hard on him a little bit. But whenever it's somebody's birthday and we're speaking words of blessing, those are the kind of things that they bring up and say, literally, Doug, "Hey, thank you for being hard on me. Thank you for pushing me to be better. Thanks for not letting me do stupid stuff." And they say it because they mean it. And so that's, we got to be hard. But I also, people might not like this, but again, this isn't, so when we see the Bible, it's the husband, the wife, and the kids. Well, now it's the husband, the wife, and her kids. So I make sure that what I'm doing with them is okay with her. She's their mom. And people might not agree. And if you wanted to argue that point, I would let you. I mean, but I'm not going to push them beyond what she wants to happen with them. Like, I'm just not going to do it, right? And sometimes I tell her, hey, you're babying them too much. And she says, yeah, you're right. I need to toughen up on them because we're trying to help them. And this is the goal I told him, Doug. Our goal is to help you to be a good man. When you're going to do something, ask yourself, is this what a good man would do? And so it's not some abstract thing because they have an idea in their mind what a good man is, right? So that's what we do. And so we try to go towards that goal. And obviously, loving God would be the first thing. But anyway.
Well, again, everything that you said
somebody,
was, everything you said was hardness that was constructive instead of, just meanness that's destructive. It's like you're stupid and you're fat and you have this tense atmosphere of walking on eggshells and you feel that stepmommy or stepdaddy absolutely loathes me.
Yeah, that thing you were talking about earlier, that's a real thing,
Oof.
bro. That's a real thing, what you were talking about earlier, how they punish other people's kids. That's real.
And again, if I got remarried and blah, 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 and went through a divorce, my allegiance would be first and foremost to my kids, not this new chick in my life, period. It just wouldn't happen.
It's good.
Because
I got Annie and she's
brother, I can live fine on my own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More hunting money, more fishing money, that kind of stuff. I'd rather do that. I'd rather live in a flippin' attic than with some contentious new second wife.
Absolutely.
That's pure garbage, man. So the moral of this story is, boys and girls, that when you have an urge to merge, when you're hoping and scoping, make sure you're listening real close to God the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
Giving you any kind of telltale sign that you are marrying Cruella de Vil. And listen to your family, listen to your Christian friends, because sometimes they can see through the veil of crap that your potential spouse might be living in, and you're blind to, especially if you're a dude, because you're thinking with the little head instead of the big head. So marriage is super serious, folks.
Well, that's the issue with that.
Ramifications.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the ramifications of not listening to God and not doing it His way are brutal. In regards to
that's the problem.
family.
Is too many people, they get it backwards. Before they get married, they're in love and they overlook all the red flags, and then after they get married, they want to be critical and bring up all the faults. It should be the other way. Before you get married, you should be very critical of every single thing. And after you get married, love covers a multitude of sins, and you should be working on it and not pointing out all the faults, But people do it the opposite way, and then they get married and say, I didn't know they were like that. It's like, well, that's your fault. You made the bed, jump up in it. All right, what's the next one? Number 5.
I think we've got to hold that one for the next podcast, Big Dog.
Okay, we could do that. We got one done.
One done,
man. I think
man.
it was important. I think it's important stuff for people to consider. Look, the goal is to get to the Lord and to get to the path that God wants us on. And sometimes we're far away from that path. And when you make a mistake and you mess up, and divorce would definitely be involved included in that. But when you make a mistake, the goal is, well, how do I get back to the A plan? Okay, so marriage and divorce is not God's A plan. But I can still get as close to that as I can, right? I mean, the goal is to get as close to what God's original plan was and to try to lead my family according to the Bible the best that I can. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are just like, well, it doesn't even matter. It matters. It totally matters.
Yeah, if you don't want your 13-year-old daughter standing over you at midnight with a butcher knife because you neglected her, it does matter.
It absolutely
could be a life
matters.
or death situation. All right, man. So what's the Warriors and Wildmen enthusiast subscriber supposed to do, Big Dog?
Go to warriorsandwildmen.com, subscribe, it's free. We'll send you out an email or two a week, keep you posted, let you know what's up. You can listen wherever you listen to your podcast, but make sure you go and subscribe so you can stay connected with us. And then also, if you want to help support the ministry, hit the war chest. It's tax deductible. We'll send you that information. And for those that are doing that, we appreciate you guys for making it happen. Warriors and Wildmen, out.